to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. And today I am thrilled to be in conversation with my next guest, who has a passion for storytelling and a love for cinema that's translated into a profound career in film editing. From his early fascination with indie cinema to shaping cultural phenomena and crafting captivating documentaries, his contributions have spanned different facets of the film industry. Please welcome my guest, Chris Guido. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking the time and see how that was a seamless transition. Before we delve into the main topics of today's conversation, I at least want to start off by, at the beginning, giving you a bit of the space to, really, introduce yourself, but also some of those early experiences. I see early 90s and indie film and things of that nature. And we had some overlap there. So I want to start there.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Chris Guido. I'm a freelance video editor. I've been editing since I graduated college in '99, and I've been on my own. Mid-August will be 15 years since I hung out my shingle. So I've been a going concern for 15 years, and can do. I think I'm pretty versatile. I can cut you a 60-second or 30-second or 15-second promo, or I've edited 3 feature-length documentaries. So some corporate creative to, keep the wolf from the door. And then if a passion project rolls through, I can take that as well. So that's been a good setup so far. That's kind of what I wanted to have happen. And luckily it has thus far. And I got into film by just wearing out my parents' Blockbuster card in the 90s. I mean, it's just crazy to think about. A friend could be like, you heard about that Do the Right Thing movie too. Let's watch that tonight. Miller's Crossing. I remember I watched that when my parents were out to dinner. I just watched it myself. My dad came home and said, "You got to watch this Miller's Crossing." Just watched it a second time with him. Obviously Tarantino, Reservoir Dogs. A bunch of guys got together. I mean, I think that's a couple years span there of just great things coming by. Who wouldn't want to be a filmmaker after you see Roger and Me and then Hoop Dreams? I mean, it was just so great that I just kind of fell in love with it, and always wanted to do documentary, and wasn't sure when I'd be able to, and have been able to, which is exciting.
That's great. You're a few years older than me, but we're in that same sort of like group. And I remember at one point I was really intent on doing like independent film. I was really in that.
Right.
And I always remark back, this is high school, and I had one course in college around like film theory. And in high school, we made a few like short films. And I look back at myself, like I graduated from like high school in like 2003. So, but went in 99, right? And it was a lot of me and every other like film jerk floating around like, "Hey man, you watched the Kevin Smith movie?" "Yeah, I did."
Yeah. Yeah, a friend and I saw Clerks on the big screen. We're like, "This is awesome."
And I think the key thing that got me, and I owe a lot, I think, to sort of watching his trajectory over the years. And one of the reasons I started podcasting, right, was I remember watching his being a fan of the movies, and then watching some of his like talks in college and evening with Kevin Smith, that stuff. And I was just like trying to glean as much as I could, and just having sort of that desire. But I don't know if I had enough access to it. It's not a lot of just, at least at that time when I was at my peak of it, people just floating around that had cameras or had desire, or had the writing chops.
Yeah. Actually, it was still film, and it's not like we all were walking around with these great cameras and inexpensive editing systems. It was still tough, It's a bit easier now.
Do you remember sort of seminal is always a weird word. Do you remember one of the more influential movies that you remember watching as a kid? You touched on a few, but is there that one that you remember watching as a kid and you're like, all right, I'm gonna burn that Blockbuster card up now.
Yeah. It's hard not to say Do the Right Thing. That was just so, everything about it was just so amazing. I mean, even the direct to camera characters talking, I was like, what is that? How you're allowed to do that? And just the characters were so great, and I thought everything, the scenery, the casting, it was just you and the message is still today, unfortunately, still as important today. So that was a very big one that I was getting anybody I could to watch it with me at the time.
I should have had you come down. I did a film revival series, a screening series, and it was a Black cinema series, and we did three movies. One was the documentary. It was Summer of Soul, and then we did two
Oh,
Spike Lee movies. Pretty much sort of the most recent pinnacle and the earlier pinnacle. We had Black Klansman, and then followed by Do the Right
oh,
Thing.
oh, wow.
And Do the Right Thing was just like, look, man, this is some of y'all gonna leave out of here like, look, I don't know about this unity now. just,
Right, right.
just pointing out these sort of weird microaggressions that still, or even like more overt aggressions that still are there. But I think that's why a movie like that is so powerful 34, 35 years later.
Yeah, yeah. You can still watch it today, and it would be feel as fresh as when it came out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your film series sounded amazing.
Yeah. I'll make sure to invite you down because I gotta have people who know some things. I'm an organizer. I can have a conversation. I'm an organizer, but I have people that have the chops and they know their stuff. I mean, when I'm reading over your bio, it's like indie films. I was like, tell me more. So you work with a number of promos and with for well-known networks, Paramount Plus,
Right,
Disney.
right, right.
What creative strategies do you utilize in sort of your relationship and working with them? Like, how does sort of your approach and how you go about your work align with what their vision is ultimately?
Yeah, it's interesting being an editor. I mean, you really can't say that I have a style. I just kind of have it be dictated by the footage or the client and the tone of what they want and things like that. So I'm mostly just trying to serve the footage. Promos is really cool because I think the audience knows that we're pulling out all the stops. I mean, we're coming just up to the line of lying to them. Um, but I think that everyone knows is media savvy enough to say they're trying their damnedest to make me watch this thing. So you just want to, if you only have 30 or 60 seconds, it's kind of an interesting, you have to use some economy to have a little surprise, a little something that don't just, you want it to look exciting and tell them when it's on, but you also want to give them something else to hang on to. Like, did I just see that? That was surprising. That was shocking. And just an interesting juxtaposition. Some little bit of something to hang your hat on when you've watched this 30 seconds go by. So that's what I try to do for the most part when I can.
So how close is sort of the promo side of things to doing a movie trailer for sake of argument or like a TV trailer? The reason I ask that is, sometimes people complain they're giving the whole movie away. And then other times it's just like, I don't know what's happening in this movie. I don't know if I want to see it.
Yeah, there's definitely a continuum because I don't know if you remember those Mad Men promos were always funny when it was just seven lines in a row that did not make any sense together. That there was really no narrative or anything. It was just that they must have had a strict order, like absolutely no teasers of any kind. I think the promo, it should be pretty similar to a movie trailer. I mean, it's just even more condensed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just a balance of what you want to achieve and how much you want to give away. Does giving something a little away get more people in front of it? Does that serve you getting the audience, or should you keep it as teasy as that there's a value in being as teasy as possible and just hinting at you're gonna want to see this for some strange reason that is cannot really be pinpointed.
Yeah, that's good.
Really nailed down.
So when you go into it, let's say, because I want to get sort of setting the stage to the degree in which you can, because I would imagine there are certain orders you can't put that out there. So what does sort of those notes might look like, and I'm saying that from this perspective. Once we wrap with this conversation and I send it over to my editor, there might be one or two notes in there. I sound stupid right here. Make these sound better, or make it sound whatever, or maybe add a music note or clean something up. But they're very just here's a couple bullet points. when you're getting sort of like you're working with the client and you have sort of do they give you this is the tone that we're looking for? Here's very specific detailed notes. What does that sort of look like from your perspective?
Yeah, generally, especially if it's corporate creative and these big name HBO, BBC America, they have a brand style as it is. So you're kind of working within those parameters. But I've definitely been given the note. We're going to go teasy this time. Just hint at various. You're not going to show X, Y, Z. And yeah, your notes will come back for just a variety of. There's often multiple layers of people watching and personal taste that you're navigating your piece through.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine like being a fan of movies and then like in different like pieces of media, and you're like, huh, this is what y'all want. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Is there in your career like a project that comes out in like that sticks out for you that's very like influential, like that impacted your growth as an editor, as a person in the space? Because it's a very extensive track record. I played on your website a little bit and I was like, that too. So is there one or a few that come to mind that were particularly challenging, or that you're like, okay, this is a really big one, this is where I want to go?
Yeah, that most recent feature length documentary that I cut, which ended up being called Great White Intersection, was about unfortunately, a tragic shark accident off the shore of Cape Cod. And these filmmakers had taken about 3 years to interview, I believe it was 26 or 27 people, hour and a half, 2 hour long interviews. We ended up using, I think, 24 of the subjects to tell this tragic story about and the impact on the community. The surfers were very mad because it was obviously distraught because it was a bodyboarder who was killed by this shark. And then obviously environmentalists are saying these are wild animals. There's not much you can really do. And I knew I wanted to work with these guys when they were basically wanted to treat every single subject with respect and dignity, including the wild animals.
Yeah.
So we had to shape a hour and a half, hour plus documentary out of this just mountain of material. And it was a real challenge. It was basically not much story structure heading in. I had to find that. We found it together, and it's good to I was given some authorship to make the skeleton, make the timeline first, and then they would have some notes after that. But it was a big undertaking, and I'm proud of the result.
So I'm reading about this next question. I had this note about reaching West, dreams of China's new generation.
Mm-hmm.
And focused on high school students preparing to study abroad. Could you share a bit about the storytelling around that and sort of, what that experience was like?
Yeah, that's another very interesting one. I'm proud of that one in that it ended up being a funny documentary. And another producer director went to China to shoot on the campus of a school that prepares I guess we call them high school seniors there for applying to and going to like Oxford and Ivy League schools here. But you end up seeing that basically teenagers are teenagers anywhere in the world. They a little bit before the Taylor Swift craze, that one main character is thinking about an issue with a boy and says, "What would Taylor do?" And of course that made it in the trailer because spoiler or not, you're going to hang your hat on that. And is in the film. It was very interesting. That was a rare one where it had been edited by another editor, and it was just kind of at a sticking point. And I think that editor had to leave, so I met Jonathan Diamond, the producer and director of that. And there were some points where it wasn't clear, and we could just kind of polish it and make it a bit clearer. But that also brought out some of the humor and there's I think four main women characters that were very young women characters that were very interesting and very funny.
That's great. That's great. What do you enjoy most about like your work? Like, I enjoy being able to have conversations with folks like yourself, folks that are much more talented than me. So I can sound more interesting than conversation. I'll reference it like, yeah, I was talking to Chris Guido, right? And the thing about it is, so for you, what is that sort of like the unique selling points? Like if you're selling your job, if you will, and you're selling your work and pretty much what you've spent, as you said, you've been freelance for 15 years. So this is your thing. What is the unique selling points of it? Like pitch it.
Yeah, especially what I like on the documentary side is, giving some people a voice that don't have it. I think in the Cape Cod situation, there were two or more angry groups that weren't really having a conversation. So our film could kind of be the conversation that wasn't being had on Cape Cod. I don't know if they feel that way, but I hope they do. And the same with, I mean, I'm personally not going to go to China and talk to teenage girls. But I think that's what's great about documentary in general is I can just learn about somewhere I'm not going to be able to go, people I'm not really going to be able to meet. Personally, I loved your podcast on the sign painter. I would not personally have the chance. I'm not going to stop and talk to a sign painter, but it was fascinating when he was talking about he can see the flourish on the end of a letter that the guy or girl was kind of feeling it when they painted the sign. So just hearing people who you're not going to hear from is just a great part of documentary and why a big part of why I want to be part of it.
Thank you, and thank you for checking that out. That was a great conversation I had with Sean Danaher, I believe. And yeah, I mean that's sort of what a lot of it is about. Like I find that me and my partner, we watch a fair amount of documentaries together. If someone makes a suggestion and we've had a few conversations, they're like, "Hey, you want to check this documentary out? You'll get it." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And generally I do. And I, in the back of my head, I just have this desire to do one because I feel that this sort of podcast satisfies multiple things. It's an archive thing, it's storytelling, it's all of that. But also I think, the way that I see it, it's a documentary. It's capturing things at a certain time with a certain cross-section of folks. And I want to see that to the sort of next stage, like there is a desire. And part of it comes from having that conversation. Like probably last year, I had a conversation with James Spooner from Afropunk, and I watched his documentary, and I was like, I want to make this. I want to make this one, but for my thing. But I want to make this.
Right.
So I'm going to get back to because I want to ask you a little bit about NYU, but I'd be remiss if I didn't as a kid of the 90s. So really, that Pokemon is in here. So come on, tell me.
Yeah, this is the hook for the podcast, right? former editor of Pokemon. My first job out of school, I applied for and got to be an editor on. I think I started on the second season of Pokemon. They had just knew they were going to come out with a movie, and they needed some help. And I think the first 6.5 years of my career, it was great to kind of learn to be a professional, and I met some good friends that I'm still friends with, and was on the ride of this huge thing that ended up with to the point where kids were stabbing each other over the cards. I knew I had to get out when that happened.
So that's I mean that was a time.
And it's interesting. I mean, no one would argue that it isn't a 20-minute commercial interrupted by 10 more minutes of commercials, but it did seem to make a really big connection with people. It was a small enough company that when I had a little downtime, I would actually open the fan mail that we get. And kids always said, make it so we can catch Pokemon. Make it so we can catch Pokemon. I would love to do that. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, they should just have a room with like a hologram and let kids. And then I read about that Pokemon Go, and I said, this thing is going to be, I was gone by then. I said, this thing is going to be humongous because we were having kids tell us to do that. Yeah. And I still see, I still see kids wearing the T-shirts, and I see the cards still sell for. I imagine all the kids that are watching my episodes now have some extra cash and can pay for the Charizard card and all that kind of stuff. So, yes, it was a 20-minute commercial interrupted by 10 minutes of commercials, but I think it did make a personal connection with some people. I think they do still feel connected to it and good about it.
I mean, I would watch Pokemon before I went to school. So I mean, look, and me and my brother, we both had like sort of that original run of the cards and things of that nature. Right. We had the Game Boy games with I think red and blue, and that's
you're OG on that.
OG, triple OG.
Yeah.
And I go to the conventions, the sort of pop culture conventions. It's
Oh.
still definitely a big thing. So this is cool. This is not the reason why I wanted to interview you, but I saw that I was like, again, another one for this guy.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see the voice directors and stuff still go to the conventions.
Well,
Fans still want to hear it. Yeah, it's great.
so in being sort of like a part of that, I at least wanted to just put this out there, and being a part of that, which was a cultural phenomenon. It was everywhere, and I feel like
Mhm.
there either was an episode or there's going to be an episode of like the toys that made us, or like
Oh yeah, they should if they haven't.
um like what does that feel like? Would it be something like you would want to be a part of in like a sort of different capacity with this sort of like more experience and more of like a career in the industry?
I can't take a lot of credit and authorship for that. I mean, it came over from Japan, and we were kind of, whittling it down.
Sure.
And I mean, it's great. Like, it's great that it was so successful, and um, it was fun. It was a fun run. I just can't take much credit. The voice actors were doing more. The directors were doing more. I was kind of nipping and tucking and advising and really technically like getting 52 episodes a year out the door, um, more than putting any kind of stamp on the property.
So that, I mean, when you mentioned that number, right? It's still you're still
Yeah.
touching it. You're mentioning that number. I mean, what would you say is like one of those traits about you as an editor, a person working within the industry that really like just like makes you good at what you do? Like to pad, if you will, I think, because this is not a question I was in, but to pad, if you will, I think like for what I'm doing in this spot, being able to talk to a nice cross section of people. It's not one note. It's not like I can only talk to visual artists or only talk to black visual artists or whatever. It's like I can try to talk to a multitude of people, and I come with authentic curiosity, and I'm actually very interested in what someone does and how they go about it. And I think a lot of times, not everybody has that. I listen to a lot of bad podcasts. So I think having that kind of makes me good at what I do, at least serviceable. So what makes you good? Because I hear, what make you, it keeps you interested. I mean, it might be a better way to put it. I think, folks have some folks have stamina for what they're doing. That's why I mentioned the sort of 52 and you're touching it. Some people are like, that's good. It's like you
Oh,
didn't.
I see. I mean, I think I'm genuinely curious. I mean, that's a cool thing for you that you're, like I said, you're talking to just such a wide swath of people. It's a really interesting podcast. Um, and then also just I do genuinely like collaborating. I'm not really a type A personality, really hard charging personality. We'll try. Any idea can be tried. I mean, these things can go so many. These things can be cut dozens, if not hundreds, of different ways. So it's cool to see where it turns out and whose ideas work. And then even if it doesn't, you've seen something that you've tried something, and then you might have to turn around and try something else. But it's generally cool to be working with talented, dedicated people and see where just a pile of footage can end up down the line, whether that's seasons and seasons of Pokemon turning into some kind of music video, or like I said, like dozens and dozens of hours of serious heavy interviews turning into a watchable 90-minute documentary. It's just kind of great to see how many people are involved, and how we can all, sounds lame, but how we can all work together to make the best possible story, and for the audience and the subjects
Yeah.
um, of the pieces themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, this podcast in itself, which I spent a fair amount of time doing, is very collaborative. I mean, you know, I'm doing this side of things. I got questions, all of that different stuff, but also it's like it takes two to tango, or sometimes multiple people if it's a sort of a panel setup. And it's very much a collaborative project. If a person comes in and they don't have the energy, or they're just doing it, going through the sort of motions, then it falls flat. Or if I'm not kind of where I need to be at, like I didn't properly prepare, or I'm feeling under the weather, or it's just my mic doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's definitely very collaborative, but when those things are in line and we're able to kind of, make, this is going to sound corny, make the magic happen,
Right. Right.
something good comes out of it. And, my job, I feel, is to try to, help someone, show what they're doing and kind of give them sort of a framework. And, there's not a whole lot of editing that goes into this other than like cleaning up the audio. It's mostly, this was a conversation. This was a conversation about this particular topic, and it's an invitation in many instances for folks to learn more either about the guest or the topic that we're discussing. And in this instance, like film editing. So I got two more real questions because I
Okay. Sure.
gotta make sure you have the real questions.
Sure.
And I'm gonna modify this one. So going back, thinking through where you've been at over the since NYU, thinking about like honing your sort of your skills, in editing, your approach to how you go about your work. Is there a memory that comes to mind? And I have a part B to it, but I at least want to pop off there. Like, thinking back, is there, a cherished memory like from those college days, those sort of early, all right, doing this, that pop up?
Yeah, I know. Well, so if you're interested in the NYU days, I obviously, I think much like yourself, I was like, oh, I'm going to be a writer director. I'm going to be, and I got on set and didn't really like it. I was, either freezing out on the sidewalk or under hot lights and tripping over wires. And then when I was, the quote unquote director, just, like I said, I'm not really a type A personality. It was just tough to make those decisions, right off the bat, right there on set.
Mm-hmm.
Editing, I can be washing dishes or walking my dog and thinking about like, have we tried this person, juxtaposed with that person? I will think about scenes we haven't tried, and then in the morning, then they're ready to go. That's a little more my speed. And then once I got into the editing room at NYU, literally taping film together. This was 2000, basically like silent films. 1900 style. I really love that. Like just watching it come together, the one shot to the next shot. It was awesome. So I was even in the editing room, and you're working with a razor blade. My fingers were all nicked up. I had to tape my fingers to keep going. And I still remember that even when I'm working on computers today. It's like what it used to take.
Yeah.
So I remember the bloody thumbs, I guess.
I mean, that could be the name of the autobiography.
It should have been the name of my production company.
and for the folks listening, come on, give us the name of the production company.
It's just Skydo Post Production, which is a nickname my friends and I gave me on the basketball court in high school. SKYDO, which helps with the pronunciation issue.
I like it. I like it. So here's the last one. What would you, if someone is interested in, pursuing, editing, film editing, working in a collaborative nature as it relates to storytelling, whether it be documentary, whether it be promos, what would you say that one trait is that, or that one piece of advice you would share?
You should definitely be patient. You should definitely be really open-minded. You can go into a project thinking it'll look a certain way or feel a certain way, and it just doesn't work, and you're going to have to backtrack. You can't be too dear or precious. There's an interesting phrase that you're going to have to kill your babies at some time. I mean, sometimes your favorite shot or favorite line is not going to get in there the way you thought it was going to. So you do have to be flexible and patient, and at least for me, I think that just works better that way than trying to shove through the ideas you came in there with.
That's good.
So there'll be a lot of trial and error is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, as a person who I was cast in a show, the show was popular, and I'm waiting for my episode to pop up, and then my scene was cut, and I didn't know. I was like, no,
oh man,
about this. I've gassed this up so much
on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the release the Rob Lee cut. Just
exactly. Yeah. Give us the 4-hour Rob Lee cut.
Absolutely. And it's only on film. It's like, look, cut your fingers up, all of the stuff. So I want to hit you with these rapid fire questions. And look, these are going to be easy. They're going to be smooth.
Okay. My phone's out of power, by the way.
Here's the first one. what is your favorite comfort meal? I would imagine I used to edit all of my podcasts, right? At a point, I did 5 podcasts a week. So I was the only editor. And sometimes just like, look, I need a pizza. I need something. What is your favorite comfort meal? Because you're preoccupied, you're doing this, you're in it. What is the meal you're having?
Yeah, a big old burrito for me. I still miss Burritoville, but I would have to say burrito. I could eat Mexican 7 times a week.
You get it. Is there a production company, like just generally speaking, is there a production company that you really dig? And if so, what character or what movie sticks out from said production company? And this comes from a meme I saw when someone posted the New Line Cinema logo from back in the day, and you can tell your age by which movie you're going with. Me, it was Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Gosh, I mean, I just love everything A24 does. But is that being?
No, it's not. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Is there a movie that comes for that?
Oh, that's a good question. Gosh.
Ex Machina.
Yeah. Man, that sounds so lame. I like everything they do. I'm really blowing this one.
No, you're good.
I don't even like horror, but I do like their horror for some reason. Gosh, Midsummer just get me off the hook, but
okay. I mean, I saw that in theaters. It was long, and I was like, is my man like getting roasted right now? All right, then cool. I get it. I was like, Blood Angel, got it. This is sort of the last like rapid fire one. So tell me about it has to exist. What is like a project you wish you worked on, like in the last, let's say, movies you've seen like the last year, for sake of argument?
Okay.
It's no knock to anyone, but it's like,
yeah. It's we have to expand it a little bit back. I have a 21-month-old daughter, so we're watching less. But I loved. I called him Morgan. It was a documentary about a jazz musician who unfortunately got hooked on heroin, and he ended up with a relationship with like a much older woman. And it's all like a love letter in New York. It's a beautiful setting in New York. He was a great jazz trumpeter, I believe. And she ended up shooting and killing him. And it's a really fascinating just their relationship, and it has obviously a tragic story about him. And that was the one where I was like, man, I mean, this has it all for me. Just music, just high stakes, for lack of a better term. Relationships you don't see very often. It was incredible.
That's great.
I called him Morgan.
That's great. Now I'm going to look this up. So whenever I get the suggestion, I'm going to look it up. And
that's his last name. He's Lee Morgan, but she called him his last name. It's streaming somewhere. I think I saw it on Netflix, but that may have changed by now.
I'll check it out. So with that, thank you for coming on and making the time. I'm glad we got this. And 2, I want to invite and encourage you to share with the listeners in these final moments where they can check you out, where they can check out your website, social media, all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. So you can find my reel and resume at chrisguido.net and reach out to me. There's a contact on there, or just hit me at chris@chrisguido.net. I'm not on X or whatever they're calling it these days. So I'm mostly putting stuff there, and LinkedIn and such. And that's basically where to find me.
Well, thank you. And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chris Guido for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.